This is JB Anderson, the Thrash Metal Marauder, the Mosh Hoss, and the Violent Breed, and you are checking out the 3 Count Podcast with Red Dog. What is up?
I'm in fashion, roll coat.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Enter the Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, after, our 300 and something episode, this being season 4, I would just think you would say it with me, I am your Sherpa, because just like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring today? You see him right there. You can find this person at 1CW, MCW, DCW, Fight, C3W, H2O, EWA, and Voltage. You can find him as a solo act. You can find this man at a headbanging concert. You can find this man being loved by your favorite rock star's favorite wrestler. And then you can find this man being everything that you wish you could be. He is the Violent Breed, JB Anderson.
That is one hell of an introduction. Thank you.
There's a lot of tongue twisting in there, and I was like, man,
there's a ton. Like, I feel really bad when announcers have to try to say Mosh Hoss while yelling, because it's like one of those ones where if it hits your tongue the wrong way, it's flowing off in the poor way. But so far, everyone kills it. Like, Chad Spectacular right now is my favorite ring announcer because he hits all my cues and puts so much oomph behind it. I love it.
I love it. Actually, what's funny is I was just talking about this with Chaz the other day, right? Because Chaz is the other half of this, right? I was talking with Chaz about it. I was like, I want a ring announcer to do all my intros, like just list them off. Like, I know he's not supposed to be talked about anymore, but David Starr, you know how David Starr had like that long intro, and that's what I want too, right? So I want him to be like
comically long intro.
Yeah, so be like, now coming to the ring, he comes at 5'9" to 6'10", depending on which convenience store he's running from. He is his weight for it. Hailing from the island of Misfit Toys, he is the Air Force veteran, intel specialist, the one you call on when you need to get the job done, the DICK of this industry, dog in charge, kid. He is the finest mercenary in all of professional wrestling, the neighborhood, your friendly neighborhood, the ridiculously kissable Red Dog.
Nice. You spent 2 minutes of your 10 just in the intro.
Just an intro, bro. Yeah. That's less work that I gotta do.
Less bumps, man. That's right. The magic of it. Try to figure out less is more.
So for those who don't know, we've met each other at different shows. We actually met each other last year with C3W, but then we find each other at like 1CW. We find each other at EWA. We find each other like at all sorts of different places. So it's definitely kind of cool. Yeah, it's always fun to like see you and get to hang out and just chat up with you, man. Yeah, so let me ask this right off the jump, right? Who is JB Anderson?
So JB Anderson is I've basically been a metalhead, like punk, hardcore, all that stuff for the majority of my life now. I think I've actually been in that scene almost as long as the period of time when I got into it, because I got into it at like 14, 15, somewhere around there. And I'm 36 now, so it's been like most of my life has been committed to this music scene. And then I just became a wrestler 3 years ago. And I was like, you know what? I want to learn how to wrestle. I'm getting kind of bored with playing music, and I just want to start hitting people and making money for it, as opposed to just doing it in the pit for free. So that's basically who I am.
I like that. You know what's funny is, like, for me, like, I was in the military, I got out, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. My daughter told me I was squishy, so I was like, let me go lose some weight, right? Get in the gym. I meet a dude who has a t-shirt that says John Cena. We start talking. He lets me know that he's a backyarder. I go yard for a year, and then I find Sicken, and I start getting trained by him. And then for the last 3 years, I too have been traveling this DMV area, learning how to hit people in the face for free.
Nice.
Well, there's a price to it, but yeah, free
Getting an
essentially.
envelope for a sock in the mouth, yeah.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
So what? Okay, so huge metal fan, right? Then
Yeah.
decided you wanted to go into pro wrestling. Like, why pro wrestling?
So I like grew up watching it. Earliest memory I have watching wrestling was my dad and my older brother had a tape of Survivor Series '89, and I started like I found it randomly and was like just enamored with it, and I was like, that's all the wrestling I knew for like a couple years. So I was like, Ultimate Warrior was like the first thing I saw, and I was like, this person is screaming at me, and I don't get it, but it was just amazing. So that was kind of really like my starting point with it, but I didn't really get like into wrestling until like I saw ECW for the first time, and that was like 99 2000, somewhere around there. And at that point I was like, I love this stuff, like I want to do this so bad. And then the pandemic happened and I was bored, and I was like, you know what, I found a wrestling school that's open during the pandemic. I need something to do because I'm so used to running around and touring and stuff. So that's what I was doing. Then that all stopped on a dime. And I had the funny thing is with my wrestling training, I had two friends who signed up supposedly, and they were supposed to go with me. I show up first day of training, they're not there. I send them a text, and I'm like, "Hey guys, so what happened?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we weren't serious about that. What, are you there?" And I was like, "I just dropped $3,000 to train with you guys, and y'all just bail?" And they're like, "Yeah, we weren't serious." And I was like, "Well, shit." I was like, I guess I better see this through then. I already got into it. So I honestly was learning to wrestle because I had like I just wanted to finally do it. Like the pandemic kind of pushed me into a position of like I need to stop having wants and dreams and just do it. So it kind of, because you never know when this is going to end, you know? So I just dove in head first. Just balls to the wall, went for it. Broke my ankle a year in, then came back, kept working, and had my indie debut in January of 2022. And since then, I've just been full speed.
It's funny, man, because I kind of had like the similar path, right? Like I started January of 2020, and then March happened, the shutdown happens, right? And then we go to May, and I think it was like Memorial Day weekend. Like I showed up, ran a couple, like I did some stuff, like, and I kind of was thinking maybe this isn't for me. Like I gave it to college try, but it wasn't working out.
Mhm.
And because of Mad Max Morrison, like he was like, no, dude, he's like, there's definitely a lot of potential. Like keep coming, keep training. I promise you it'll click. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna do it, right? I'm gonna keep going. And 2 weeks before I'm about to make my official debut in front of a live crowd, I tear my abdomen and I'm out for 12 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, me and Steven Fuerte were about to do like they wanted to debut us with like a tag team run, like an odd couple tag team, and then I break my ankle like right as soon as they're like, "Hey, this is an idea we have," and nope, snapped it, taking a clothesline.
Yeah, it was
dumbest bump I've ever done.
Wildly, I tear my abdomen learning to do a 3/4 roll.
Really?
Just
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I the first time I did it, it felt something weird. I was like, yo, that didn't feel right, and I couldn't figure out why. So I asked,
the left ones?
Yeah, so I legit asked Ron. I was like, Ron, did that look weird to you? And he was like, do it again. And so I did it again, and I felt it. And I was like, oh, what did I just do? It hurt to stand up. It hurt to walk. It hurt to sit down. It hurt to lay down. It just hurt, right? And I went to the ER. I went to urgent care. They thought I had a hernia. But then I got to think, I had to replay everything in my mind. And what I realized was when I was coming down, I was leading off with the right leg and not the left. And so I was twisting my body violently to roll back up, and that's what caused it. So yeah, so and then my doctor ended up looking, and she's like, I think you might have a hernia. I'm gonna send you to a specialist, and then we'll go from there. So I go to the surgeon, right? And the surgeon goes, this is the funny thing, man. I think I've told this story once, so I get to tell this again. It's kind of fun. So I have the doctor's aide, right? The aide comes in. He's like, what happened? I was like, listen, this is going to sound really weird. I just need you to know what happened? I was like, I was doing a 3/4 a roll in wrestling, and I felt something tear, and my doctor thinks I might have a hernia. So the hallway is legitimately 4 feet away, and it's very thin walls. And I hear him telling the doctor, "Hey, so I don't know. I think he said he was rolling with some friends, and he like felt something tear." So the doctor walks in. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Miller, how are you doing today? What happened?" And I was like, "Listen." And I looked at his age, and I just went full promo mode. Like, you suck at your job. You suck at telling people what happened. I was like, you should be ashamed of being able to call yourself a doctor. I was like, this is what happened. I was at wrestling practice. I'm a pro wrestler. And that's the only way I can. It's not gonna make sense to be like, I'm an indie wrestler. They're not gonna know. I'm a pro
Yeah,
wrestler.
exactly.
I was doing a roll, and when I hit the ground, I hit funny, and I felt something tear my abdomen. And he goes, "Oh, you're a pro wrestler?" I was like, that's
Yes.
what we're getting across with it. So it was like, yes. And so we started talking and stuff and joking back and forth. And then like his guy was like, "Oh, yeah, I was way off." I was like, "I know. I heard you through the wall. My daughter heard you through the wall. Like, we both know." And so anyway, they found out. They were like, "Hey, you don't have a hernia. It's just a tear. It's gonna take a couple weeks. You'll get back to it. When did you do this?" And I was like, about like 6 to 7 weeks ago." They're like, "Yeah, you can be." He's like, "You're going to be tender for about 3 months, but you're going to be good to go in about 2 weeks." Sure enough, like 8 days later, like there I am taking bumps in the ring. And that guy, my surgeon, now follows me on Twitter.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the physical therapy group that I had to go to start walking again after my ankle surgery, they were following me too after a little while. They're like, "Well, we have to see like our work in progress, and hopefully we never have to see you again." That was their running joke all the time. Like the guy that ran the place is like huge wrestling fan, so anytime I showed up, he was like, "Mr. Monday Night," like every time I rolled in.
I'd be like, Saturday night, but I'll take Monday too.
Right, exactly. It's like, yeah, I do wrestle on Mondays at H2O, but I don't always wrestle on Mondays. It's rare, but yeah, no, it's not. I'm not Mr. Monday Night.
But so okay, so obviously you said taking a clothesline and you snapped your ankle. Is that the worst bump you've taken?
If that led to an injury, kinda. I haven't really done anything too stupid. Like I've wanted to. Like, man, I had this idea to get eliminated from a battle royal that was on IWTV, so I was like, I need to do something kind of big. I ended up not doing it, but so at the H2O Center in Jersey, there's this one concrete wall that's like pretty close to the ring, and we have like a steel cage that pushes up towards it. I wanted to get Bandera out of the ring and then socked hard enough, like someone charging at me, and I was going to take a bump into the wall and come down. But when I got there, I kind of like put my hand on the cage that's there, and I was like, yeah, this probably ain't gonna hurt too bad. And I put my hand down it, and the cage is actually not like safe. It's like really jagged. And I was like, man, I'm glad I didn't do that. Like just putting my hand down like this, I cut my hand. And I was like, that would have like lacerated my back if I took a bump on it and slid down the damn thing.
Yeah.
So that was I almost did that one. But dumbest, I think like snapping my ankle on a clothesline is probably up there, is pretty stupid. I just didn't pick my feet up when I was bumping and got my foot stuck in the actual canvas. So when I bumped back, my ankle just went like that. So yeah, early on mistake. Trying to think if there's anything else like I wanted to do that was really dumb. No, it's mostly been like stuff I want to do, and then people talk me out of it.
Nice.
I just want to do like fucking zany shit, and I end up getting told like, no, like you don't have to do all that.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I'm kind of the opposite. Like there's not like really, I have to be talked into like taking certain bumps because there's just some things that like I haven't like, because I mean I've been training for like three years still, right? I'm still going to school and training, but like there's just some things I'm just not comfortable with. And one of those things was somebody was telling me that they wanted to hit me with the 1916 DDT, and I was like, I've never taken that before. I was like, and
you could fall in the back of your head pretty badly with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, bro? Like, I'm kind of good with that. I was like, you can hit me with like other stuff that maybe resemble it. Like, so we ended up doing like a Scorpion Death Drop into a curb stomp, and I was like, I'll
Okay.
take the Scorpion Death Drop, roll over, curb stomp, go home, and it worked out. But I was like, this is one of those times where I was like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, I'm not really. He's like, oh, I got you. I was like, no, I know you do. I
Yeah.
don't got me though.
Yeah, I don't trust like the old what is the old thing they always tell you to do? It's like, oh man, I don't want to make your move look like shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. My only hang up with moves is when it's like too many, and I have to kind of be like I mean, I guess we're getting into the meat and potatoes of like match planning, but like I don't really like doing like too many moves for the sake of doing them. Like I've had matches with some people where they want to do like 15, 16 moves in a 6 to 7 minute match. And I'm like, you don't have any room to sell. I don't have any room to sell. Like, there's really like, it's just all movement for like 6 minutes. Like, no one's going to digest that. So, like, I'll take 2 or 3 of those big moves you want to do and we'll make them all count.
Yeah. I'm in a point where I'm like, listen, I really mastered like 5 moves, and a 6th one is still something that I'm learning. But like, I'm not really, I'm not trying to do like all the crazy stuff, and I'm not trying. I legitimately want to do more character work than I do anything else, because I think
Yeah.
that's ultimately, and I've come to just think about it as like people tend to know that a lot more than anything else. Like, do I have a list of like 20 moves I can do? Sure. Is
Yeah.
there all 20 of them I want to do? No, because I don't
No.
want to.
Yeah, like there's
But
like I think some guys don't think about like I have to have some in the chamber for like a big moment. So if all your moves are in every match, then you don't have a big moment move, you know?
mm-mm.
Like
Like
I got 2 that I only break out when I need to. Like I teased one in a title match I was in last month and didn't hit it. So I was like, okay, well the fans know I'm gonna try to do this at some point. So if I come back here and I hit it and it matters, then you know I'm kind of trying to lay the foundation a little bit.
and see, for me, it's like I can hit a 450. I
Mhm.
just choose not to because like I don't want to, and like
Yeah.
I can do moonsaults and stuff like that. Like I love doing those kind of things, but it's like
Mhm.
I don't, if I don't have to hit it unless I really like, let's just like you said, a big moment kind of thing. Then there's no real reason to hit it. So I'm like,
Right.
why am I gonna just bust this out for no reason? Like I'm just gonna do my thing and just continue having fun with it.
Yeah, that's honestly like the best way to do it. Like just, if you're not having fun, why do it?
Yeah, because I do. It's funny because one of my friends, Jeremy Grimes, before he like stepped away from the ring, he used to always hit this DVD, and it was like it was a rolling DVD, and
Oh yeah.
like I started doing it just mocking him, and like now I just have it in my arsenal because I just know I can hit it whenever I want to. But I would hit his rolling DVD and just like talk shit to him as I was doing it. Now I'm like, all right, now I'm a lot more comfortable doing this move. And I probably should just start hitting this move more often because it just, one, it's cool and I like hitting it. But 2, like it's funny. I've just never really thought about like let me bust this out in this match one time. I'm kind of waiting for that moment to where I get to showcase it, and I haven't had that just yet. Even though like I've been been doing this now for 3 years and I haven't ever busted it out yet.
But when you do though, it's gonna be like a big moment, right? So that's
Yeah,
probably the best part about keeping it in your back pocket.
because I would love to be able to set it up like where I would hit it, roll, get back to my feet, off, jump to the middle turnbuckle, hit a moonsault right off. That way
Yeah.
people be like, "Oh shit, did you see what he did? No, dude did a freaking cartwheel!" Like,
Right.
yo, so let me ask you, like, with you, right? Give me like 5 characters that make up who JB is.
From like wrestling or just in general?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So in general, 5, I think like Beavis and Butthead. Like just a little bit of that, right? Because I'm kind of a shit talker and I'm kind of a dummy. So they, you know, the 2 of them kind of fall in order. So yeah, Beavis and Butthead, um, a little bit of New Jack. Just because I'm down for crazy stuff and I'm kind of a nut. Um the what's his name? Cactus Jack and a little bit of Terry Funk.
Mm.
Those are all the minds that are in my head when I'm trying to think of stuff to do.
I mean, those are all great people, and I remember my first time watching Beavis and Butthead as a kid, and like, I remember the news like had this article that they were trying to spin talking about Beavis and Butthead caused kids to do like dumb things.
Yeah.
And like the articles that was pointing to, but one for me in particular that I remember was when they were mud wrestling. Like that was like one of my favorite episodes of like all time, hitting each other with baseball bats with boxing gloves on the end of it.
Right. There's so many ridiculous episodes of Beavis and Butthead. Like the one where Butthead gets stuck in the pipe is hilarious.
Yes.
It's like one of my favorite episodes. To this day, like it's the simplest joke, but there's one episode where they're like hanging out in a mall, and it's the beginning of the episode. They just walk by, and Butthead just nudges Beavis, and he goes, "Hey Beavis, that mannequin has a butt," and they just start laughing. And I don't know what it is. The joke is so damn simple, but it cracks me up every time. I'm easily amused.
We're children of the 90s. We are, of course, easily amused. Like it's a thing that's in us.
Yeah, our sensory systems weren't so overloaded by constant like comedy and memes yet.
Nope.
we had to wait to laugh. You know, we had to wait for the TV to warm up in a special time slot.
Yeah, we had appointment by TV. That's always the thing that I constantly think about. I'm like, yo, like we set up times and we were like with our friends talk about, all right, at 7:00, Monday Night Raw is gonna be on. We gotta all watch it so we could talk about it Tuesday. It's not like we had DVR where we could be like, oh, we'll just wait.
Yeah, no, it's like, no, you had to watch it. I think that might be one of the things that's making like wrestling so digestible now, is because there's so much and there's so easy access to everything. You don't have to be anywhere to watch wrestling unless you want to be there live in the building, you know?
Which, you know, it's cool too if you go attend a live wrestling show, but like, or even just watching it on TV live is fun too. But I think like, yeah, you're right. Like just because like, whether you're like streaming it or you're watching it on like Hulu or watching it live or you're watching it on, you know, Peacock Network, right? Or whatever, like there's so much wrestling out there with like, just to be able to ingest everything. And it's like, and then what's cool is that you can always find your flavor. Like if you're looking for like a lot of great talent in one area that's like wrestling all the time, you have GCW, right? If you want to go watch like all the top guys, you can always go watch WWE or AEW. If you want to go watch like a bunch of great performers that are going to show you how to do some things that you probably never seen before, you're probably going to want to go to Impact. You want to see a bunch of indie guys, like you can watch the Wrestling Open, right, on IWTV. It's just crazy how much wrestling content is actually out there.
Yeah, and like you said, it's your like 31 flavors. Like there's like the Baskin Robbins of pro wrestling now. You don't have to do tape trading like we did to go find, you know, something that we actually wanted to watch versus what was on TV. Even though TV then was like amazing, but like you weren't getting FMW type of like Japanese deathmatch stuff on TV, which that's what I started like getting really into when I was a teenager. Like I found somebody on like, there was this old website I used to use called DIYauctions.com, and it was like a underground version of eBay. But there was a guy on there that used to sell VHS bootlegs of all these Japanese deathmatch shows. So I used to just send him like $5 cash in the mail, and then I'd get a VHS tape in like a couple of weeks. And it just I had no idea who anyone was, no idea what was going on. It was just wild matches, like 6 hours of wild matches per tape.
I love it, all of it. I remember like asking my dad constantly to like buy pay-per-views for me because I was like, yo, we have Halloween Havoc and I want to go watch it. And he's like, okay, we'll go check it out. I remember like, especially because like this ended up becoming like one of my favorite pay-per-views of like of all time. And it's still to this day one of my favorite pay-per-views was Halloween Havoc 97, right? Where Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio were wrestling as the mask versus the And then the funny thing so here on the podcast, like we watched it back. And we were watching the show back, and I was like, "Yo, I genuinely forgot that Hogan and Piper were in a steel cage in this match." Yeah. Not only that, I was like, "How in the hell did Macho Man never blow out his knees when he jumped off the cage?"
Right, like that's such a high distance. Like I go from the top rope sometimes, and I feel like this is the day I'm never gonna walk again.
Yeah, well, it's not even that. It's like he landed, and then he like hits Piper, and then he falls down, and he gets back up and walks off. Like, and I was like, dude, cocaine is a hell of a drug. Because
Yeah.
there's no way that this man just survived. He's walked off like, no. He's like, oh yeah, the Macho Man walks away real good.
As soon as he gets behind that curtain, it's ooh, I need help to the top.
Give me my cane, brother.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people forget about that main on there because of like I think the most memorable match from it is the Guerrero and Mysterio match. I think that's like the match that everyone remembers.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And there was like a lot of good matches on that night too, which is crazy. But yeah, Ray and Eddie like stole the whole entire show, and no one can convince me otherwise. Never.
No. Like there's some of those manias that are like that too, like the ones that are like highly revered. Like WrestleMania 20 is one, 17, like was it 13? And you watch them and you're like, man, the undercard of these shows are like not really good. And there's like only so many matches that are like ones that blow you away, but you remember like the big match. And I want to get to a point where like I'm like that on shows. I feel like that's like my stride. Not to make a shit ton of money because that might be difficult, but I want to like leave and people remember my match from the night. That's kind of what I stride for, and I'm trying to like work up the confidence to get to a point where I know I can pull that off every night.
Yeah, I think that's where like for me it's like I just want to find like that sweet spot where it's like, hey, like I can hang with the big boys and work with them, or I can always just kind of like be in that upper echelons level, and people are going to be like, oh yeah, Red Dog, we've heard of him. Like he's wrestled out in California, and he's been to like Washington, and he's been to Hawaii, and he's been up to Maine, right, and down to Florida and Texas. Like he's well known. He's like, he's just never been signed. He's just always kind of been around. So it's just kind of cool. But I want to be like the legend of Red Dog.
The man, the myth, the Red Dog.
Yeah, the one where like everybody like feels like everybody's like, I don't know him, but I know him. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's a cool spot to get to. Like then like when guys are up in the Hall of Fame, like giving their speeches and stuff, like we could just use a name, right? AJ Styles is giving his Hall of Fame speech, and he's like, you know, a guy I really want to thank, Red Dog. You know, like he's not, and everybody's like, woo, yeah. Like, yeah, I've never stepped a foot in the WWE ring, but for some reason everybody know me.
But you're known and respected. That's what it is. Like that's one of the things that I was really taken aback by when Jay Briscoe died, was the amount of people in wrestling that respected him, where you think like, okay, this is a guy that we all know locally and a guy that like we respect and a guy that we see in like, you know, Ring of Honor all the time, but you don't know that the casual wrestling fan or how much of the wrestling world is connected to this person. And then when you see it, you're like, man, that is awesome. Like it was amazing seeing the outpouring of support when he passed. But that's one of those guys, like that kind of mindset where it's like, I just want to be respected enough to where people talk about me and everyone goes, you know, yeah, I agree.
Put that guy in that category too. And I just want people to know, like, too, like at the end of the day, like when I leave the business completely, right? And I'm not even talking about done with this podcast, done commentary, doing interviews, whatever, doing MC, wrestling, just everything in general.
Walking away.
I want people to be like, yeah, I just want people to be like, hey, yo, you know what? I fucking love that dude. He was genuine. He was the same dude in the ring that he was out of the ring, maybe a little bit more energy, but like behind the scenes, like he was always wanting to help people. He always wanted to talk to people. He wanted people to feel like they were welcome, if it was his locker room or not his locker room. Like he was just that dude.
Yeah, I that's one of my things is I try really hard to like just be cool, be kind, and be, you know, the person that I want to be in a locker room with, you know, because I'm trying to bring like a lot of like my ethics from the music world I come from, where it's like, just don't be a dick for no reason. Because in that world, if you're a dick for no reason, you can get punched in the head and really no one will cry about it. It's kind of the same way in wrestling. Like there's so many parallels to both, where like I think I'm kind of fast tracking a little bit in pro wrestling because of the music world that I was in before, like because they are kind of similar in a way.
I kind of feel that same way with the military, like the military and wrestling, like have like their things like in the military too. You know, you have your first years where like you're gonna go up in the rank regardless,
Mhm.
right? As long as you're not a complete shitbag.
Right.
You got you Blue Falcons not there who you are. Anyway, but then on the other side, like once you get to a certain point, like you got to start like I don't want to say politicking, but you kind of have to know like people, and you kind of have to start learning the ins and outs of like the management side of like the military. And it's the same way with like pro wrestling. Like, yeah, your first couple years, your trainer's going to be there to kind of help you and just kind of like show you the ropes. But then after that, like once you kind of start venturing on your own, it's really up to you to like
Yeah.
learn the ropes. And I kind of feel that same way. I think the only thing for me, I think, and this is a lesson that like I'm still learning now, is like,
Mhm.
bro, just fucking ask. Like that's it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like just saying, "Hey, can I?" or "Hey, do you need?" Any of those, like those two sentences are like limitless in wrestling from what I've come across. Like I got put on a show this Saturday just by saying, "Hey, can I come help set the ring up?" And now I got a spot. And then what was it with Voltage Wrestling? I just was in the car. Um and when I got there, I just happened to fill a role that they needed. Then second show had a role that they needed filled, and now I got like 9 confirmed dates with them. So it's just a matter of like just asking.
Yeah, it was funny too because like with Voltage, especially because some of you guys won't see this interview just yet, but you'll know what kind of date it was. But
Mhm,
for Voltage, like I actually just slid in. And I was just like, "Hey, do you guys need me?" Like just asking, just because I genuinely didn't know.
mhm.
And then it was I get a message. I was like, "Hey, give me 1 or 2 hours, and I'll get back to you." 2 days later, hey, yeah, show up.
Oh,
Like, okay,
shit.
sure. I just rearrange my schedule now, and I'll just try to get
Yeah.
this accomplished. Which,
All of a sudden, I got you.
yeah, also in the left field, I'm like, all right, let me get this moved around. I kind of anticipate this might happen, so I was like, cool, I'm here, we're good. And I was like, nah, just go and take care of this. But
Right.
it is very weird how the words and like, and I'm always, you know, you're always like asking about, hey, can I, you know, sometimes you don't even do it without asking. You just kind of share a promo or you share a
Mhm,
promotion or, you know, a promo package. You're just doing little things, just kind of, you know, helping people out. But
mhm.
those little things actually mean a lot to people. And I think that's like one thing that you should be doing as well as like helping out when you're there at a show. But then the other
Right.
part too is like, if you're a travel person, like you know, I drive from like, you know, Columbia, Maryland, which is
Mhm.
like a 2 hour drive to out to like 1CW, right? I
Right.
stop and I pick up Chaz and Jason Prince, and then we all ride to
Right, because 'cause they're basically on your
1CW.
way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm
If
like,
you're
let me
going
stop
up
and pick these
around
guys
that
up.
way, yeah.
So I pick them up and then we drive on. And then I'm like, all right, we're here. So we're doing our thing. And then we drive back and I drop them off. So we're always, it's whatever you can do to help out with you know, the promoter at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I've also come to notice that, like, if you're going with a group of people, sometimes it's a little easier to get, like, the payday, because you're 4 people in a car, and you're like, "Hey," you know, like, "now our $20 a piece or whatever a piece isn't as bad because we all rode together. We didn't fill up all of our tanks at once." And, you know, end of the day, it's better.
Yeah, I 100% agree. AO, so, because that's like, and that normally I ask this question, right? It's like, what's one of the
Mhm,
hardest lessons you have to learn, right? And I think for
mhm.
me, what my hardest lesson is asking. Like, I just realized,
Yeah,
like, I just gotta, like, and the thing is like, I've developed these relationships, right? And this podcast has definitely helped out, right? Like
mhm.
and like meeting people and developing these relationships. It's really just asking for help or asking how can I be of service, right?
Right.
It's crazy. But which is the hardest lesson you've had to learn being in?
Um, man, it's like I think like I got a couple. One is knowing when you're getting taken advantage of. That I kind of learned the wrong way or the hard way. Um, because like I was getting misused at a place and I didn't know any better, and then I told someone about it, and they're like, "Yo, that's not okay." Um, and I didn't know because I'm new here, right? So, and this was like in my first year, and I think that that place knew that, and they were taking advantage of my inexperience and just because at originally I thought that like any bone thrown at you, you take when you first are starting, and you don't ever do anything to like ruin your spot, right? because there's no other companies. Was in my mindset at the time.
Mm.
And then this year I've kind of been more like, there's other places to go wrestle. If this doesn't work out, I can leave. There's like really no bad, like there's only so many people, so many wrestling places. Eventually, like, I'll figure it out. But yeah, like getting taken advantage of early on was a hard lesson to learn. And then also just like knowing my value, I guess that kind of falls in the same category. But those would be the two lessons that were really hard to learn like early on.
I agree. Yeah, both the lessons are definitely still like something I'm still learning to this day. Like I'm still figuring this out.
Yeah.
And then also like I think for me it's like deciphering camouflage words, if that makes sense. Like certain people will say things to you that like, hey, we'll do such and such, right? Or we're doing this and this and this, right? And you're like, okay, cool. I kind of like that idea, and it's just not the way it's going to work out. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's
learn that
I
lesson.
always feel like really weird about asking in-depth questions like that, where like someone says, all right, cool, like we'll be here on this date. Okay, what am I doing? Like I sometimes feel weird asking that question because it could always change, right? But now like I'm starting to get used in more places where like I know 2 months ahead of time what I'm doing, so I can put out promo material, I can promote the show, I can cut promos. Like that's one of the things. Like I really like working with like H2O. I really like working with Bloodstorm Pro is like a company that I just started working for. And they're pretty good, and Voltage too. They're all really good about giving me my matches like early on, so I can be like, all right, cool. This is who I'm wrestling, what I'm doing. I have time to promote, because I feel like that's one of my strong suits is promoting. Because I was a concert promoter for like 15 years, so it's like I understand that whole aspect of it. So when I'm on someone's show, that's a value I feel like I can bring. Is the promotion side of it, the getting people to pay attention to what I'm doing, being the loudest voice in the room, that kind of idea. Like if you're at a wrestling show, how many times do you go to a wrestling show and there's people handing out flyers for other shows at a wrestling show? And they're always doing it like quiet little church mouses that are handing you this like little flyer and they're like, please come, right? So when I used to do flyering for some of the other promotions in the area, we would go to like a AEW show or a WWE show or like New Japan when they were in town, and I am being loud as shit. Like one of the shows I was wrestling in, I was in a tag gauntlet for some tag team titles. The whole time I'm like, come to this show on this date. I'm beating so-and-so's ass. I'm going to take these titles. I'm just cutting promos to strangers. And it's getting people to like pay attention and be like, okay, cool. I think I'll come. And I saw like a ton of people from that experience there. But yeah, it is definitely beneficial to like have that info early, so you know what you're doing and how to be, how to help.
I like, and see, that's something I like to do is too, and it's like, we can be honest, right? Like we're no spring chickens, right? We're still like, we understand that like time is not really on our side, so we want to get as much as we can while we still can, but also like at the same time give back. So it's like I'd like to know those things, like, hey Red Dog, like we see, like we want you to be in this position, and we see you working this person, that person, this person, that person. So if you want to start building this up and start putting these feuds together, hey, go get it, go start putting the words out and stuff like that. I'm like, cool, I got you. And then I'm cutting promo after promo and doing this and talking about this person, or going to this show, telling this person, telling these guys about it and stuff. So that way, we can get some stuff going. And I definitely agree. Like that's a great way to do it. That's why, like, you guys won't see this, but on May 3rd, if I'm at AEW, I'm gonna be outside just yelling my ass off, like about coming to wrestling shows, because that's all I'm gonna want to do.
Yeah, you got to be loud about it. It's honestly like the only way you'll get people to pay attention, because like I had to deal with that at metal shows all the time, where you're trying to hand someone a flyer and they'll just walk past you, or there's an old Mitch Hepburn joke about handing out flyers where it's basically the unspoken rule of, here, you throw this away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love me some Mitch Hedberg.
Man, what a gem, man. I'm so pissed. I had a chance to go see him on that last tour, because he was performing in DC, and then 3 days later was going to be performing in I think College Park, or maybe a week later. And both are relatively close to me being in the DMV area. And I skipped the DC date because I was like, I'll see him in College Park. And he died like 2 days before. And I was like, no, I could have went and seen Mitch Hedberg. What the hell? So mad.
It was
myself for that one.
It was wild for me because I didn't know who Mitch Hedberg was until I got into the Air Force, which was like 2006. And in 2007, like people were like quoting Mitch Hedberg jokes, and I realized like, oh, that's funny. I have no idea who that is, but I love like hearing the humor. And I was like, if you guys are telling the jokes, he's good like this way, he's got to be really good. And so when I was listening to his stuff, I was like, bruh, not only do I love this man's jokes, but I can totally pull off this character that he's doing.
Right.
And people were like, what? I was like, yeah, man, this one time I was at a rock show, right? And this man looked at us and he goes, how many of you feel like a human tonight? And so I yelled. And then he said, how many of you feel like an animal? And everybody else yelled. And I didn't think that was fair because I didn't know this was a 2-part question. How many of you people feel like a human tonight? Yes, I feel like a human. I do not feel like a tree.
I love that whole bit. That whole bit's so good.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites.
When me and my wife were shopping for houses, like his whole bit about like realtors being full of shit was going through my head every house we went to, where it's like, it's my house. I think I'm the one who decides how many bedrooms are in it. Like, check it out. This bedroom has an oven in it. This bedroom has my own toilet. Like the whole bit is so good.
I love it. But so my favorite joke from Mitch Hedberg, right? And I think this is the first time I've actually talked about Mitch Hedberg like on the show, period. But my favorite Mitch Hedberg joke though was the one where he's like, this one time I went to a restaurant and the waitress asked, what would I like to have? And I said, a chicken breast sandwich. And she said, how do you want your eggs cooked? And I said, incubated, braised, beheaded, served in between 2 pieces of bread with lettuce, mayo, and tomato and cheese. But we don't got time for all that. So I have them scrambled.
Dude, the guy was doing 4D comedy. Like it was on a totally other level.
Yeah, like, I loved it.
Yeah, him and like Bo Burnham are like the 2 guys that I think are doing like immensely good comedy. Like they're hitting it on levels that like nobody has in like a long time.
Yeah. See, it's funny because
I'm
like
a big fan of stand-up.
Yeah, so that's the one thing about me too, is that like all my favorite comedians are dead. Mm-hmm. Like it's as bad as that sounds. Like all of them were gone.
So don't like anyone new. They're gonna die.
Yeah, it was like Chris Rock. No, never heard of him.
No idea. No, I don't think he's
never
not one laugh out of me. No,
never heard of him. But no, like George Carlin, obviously, like one of my favorites. Richard Pryor, right. Like Mitch Hedberg, obviously being another one.
Patrice O'Neal, also really good.
Yes, Patrice O'Neal was great.
Yeah, great.
George,
did you ever watch that video of I think it's just audio, but it's him and Bill Burr and like some other people. They're just watching the debut of the Shockmaster over and over again. And Patrice O'Neal is just losing it the whole time. He's like explaining like the whole concept to Bill Burr. And it's just Patrice O'Neal just scream laughing for like 10 straight minutes. I'll find it and send it to you after this. But it is one of the most like the happiest this man has ever sounded.
Greg Giraldo, like
also really good. Yeah.
Yes. Amazing insult comedian. Like I loved him.
Yeah.
It's just there's levels to the game. Mm-hmm. And like another person I love watching do stand up. He doesn't know this yet, and he will now. Mm-hmm. Is Corey Bush?
Oh, fucking hilarious! I didn't know that.
Yes, he does stand up, and he's great at it.
Nice. I've met him once. I think it was him and someone else. I think picking up Reggie Collins from like a training session one time, and I think that's where I met him. I can't remember. It was either there or somewhere else. Like it's hard. Like I got ADHD, so sometimes I forget like where I meet people, but like I know their faces. I'm just like, yes, you. I remember you, but I don't remember where I know you. But I know you.
Yeah, so he's super funny. So if you ever get the chance to kind of like watch him go do stand up, like it's worth a watch. He's definitely he's great. So I want to keep this moving though, and I do want to ask one last question before we jump into the best segment of the 3 Count podcast. So my last question for you is: I need one do and one don't of the locker room.
Oh, a do and a don't. Ooh, do clean up after yourself. That is a big do, and I don't see it in a lot of places. So I try to make sure that that's something I at least handle on my end. But yeah, I saw somebody bring a plastic bag with them that was in their bag so that they were able to always put all their trash, everything that they needed in there, toss it out. That's a big do. A big do is clean up after yourself. We're all adults. No excuse. A don't. I feel like the biggest don't would be there's a lot, but I can only pick one. There's so many unspoken rules of locker rooms, so it's like really hard to like pinpoint one. But I wouldn't go and give someone unwarranted advice, not knowing who they are or what they know. I've seen people do that before, and it's sometimes really embarrassing to like watch. Like I get really bad secondhand embarrassment of just watching a stranger walk up to someone else and be like, this, and you're just kind of like, okay, I don't know how to take this information in. Unless it's like a vet or somebody like, or something like that. That's a totally different thing. But I've been at some shows where I've just seen like a guy that's been in for like a year and some change go tell someone who's a vet what they could have done better. And it's a little weird. It's a little cringy. So my don't would be pick and choose where you decide to critique your colleagues.
You see, and I feel like for those who don't know, right, and this is something you could do, right, especially if you're young and you feel like you want to give critiques, ask it in a question.
Yeah,
because
that's a good way to do
at that point, they can give you the information that you're looking for versus you saying, hey, man, I noticed on the hip toss you kind of went to this side. Be like, obviously don't do that, but be like, is there benefits to this or how, you went this route, what happened? Can I ask like why? Because sometimes they can be honest with you, like I fucking forgot, bro. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, if I forget a spot, that's usually it. It's like, yeah, my bad. I didn't get there where I should have.
Yeah,
it happens to all of us. Like you get kind of wrapped up in the moment, and it's like, oh, well, whoops. But yeah, no, I've seen a couple of situations where it was like somebody shouldn't have been giving advice at all. And I'm just watching there, and I'm like slowly delving into my cringe pocket, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch this fold out horribly.
But well, listen, those are all my heavy hitting questions, but we do gotta get into the best segment of this podcast, which is the 3 Count podcast, 10 count questions. And Mr. Anderson, this is how it works. Okay. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast. Whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
Bet.
All right, so I'm going to put on the imaginary timer for added pressure.
Bing.
Bing. And in the words of Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Oh, SmackDown.
Favorite band?
Cro-Mags.
Let's go. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Favorite singer?
Ronnie James Dio.
PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
Favorite actor?
Jonathan Bernthal.
Like it. Apple or Android?
Android. I'm a Neanderthal.
Yep. Favorite podcast?
You're like, yeah, you are.
I no, because I had Android too, so I'm 100% in that same realm.
What was the next question? Sorry.
Favorite podcast?
Really, this one? No.
Yes.
Yes. But if it wasn't this one, it's Last Podcast on the Left.
Oh, why do I know that podcast?
It's the guy from Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. It's him and some other guys. They do like a true crime podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that podcast actually. I like that one too.
It's a lot of fun.
Nominate one person you want to see on this podcast.
My boy Stephen Fuerte.
Yeah, I definitely am working on that one right now. And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on the show. Favorite curse word?
That fuck is just so good. It's a person.
It is.
Thing. It's literally the best. It's the best curse word because it's multifaceted.
I tell people all the time, it's like, listen, if you haven't checked it out yet, and I'm trying to get this video to go viral again. If you haven't heard the history of the F word on YouTube, please go look up the history of the F word, because that video alone. Yeah, it's the old English one where the guy's like, it comes from Germany, which means to strike or frickin'. Like,
oh yeah.
And he's like, you can enter it into other words like abso-fucking-lutely or in-fucking-credible. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it adds so much punch to what you're saying. Like if I introduce myself as just the violent breed JB Anderson, that's one way to do it. But if I was the violent fucking breed JB Anderson, it throws me into another fucking level.
Right. See, like, but it works for like certain people, right? Because if I was like, oh yeah, I'm Red Dog, and was like, yeah, and like I'm fucking Red Dog, it was like, oh, I mean, it's the same thing. You just added F word on there for no reason. Like, well, like it doesn't enhance Red Dog.
Right. With your character, I feel like you could pull it off if you were like, I'm going to curse, but I won't because there's a swear jar nearby. Because it goes perfect with the comedy aspect of what you do.
Yes. I think what's funny is like we'll talk about this and then we'll wrap this up, right?
Sure.
I've literally thought about like bringing out like a gaming controller and like just handing it to like a random kid in the crowd, right? Mm-hmm. And then like getting into the ring, right? And then like when the bell rings, I'm like, all right, kid, let's move. And then just like start jumping like randomly. He's like, hey, we gotta move. Yeah, like he's trying to figure out like the list, right? And I just look at the ref and like, ref, timeout. And I roll out of the ring, grab the controls from the kid and be like, listen, man, it's just not working out. And it's like set the controller next to like the bell and then get into the match. I think that's such a good, like fun comedy spot. And then like my character wants to be like, he has like one or two comedy spots, but then for the most part, like he's like Deadpool. Like he's definitely going to just, beat people's asses because that's what he wants to do at the end of the day.
The fourth wall at the same time,
while breaking the fourth wall, and I think that's important. And it's one of those things where it's like, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? He's kind of whatever you need him to be. Just throw him in the spot, let him get to work. Like if you need him to be the bad guy, he can be an asshole. If you want him to be the good guy, he can make all your favorite kids, all your kids in the crowd. He can make those kids like believe that he's gonna be like the greatest thing ever. And it's like, I was like, and it's just one of those things. It's just, I have fun. Like I had a kid legitimately in tears because she couldn't save me while I was in the ring because the guy who was beating me up was so much bigger than me and she was so much in tears. Like we were at NCW in Bannerville, Pennsylvania, right? And and this match is happening. I look at the kid and I was like, yo, tag me in, right? And that it's just fun for me. And so anyway, I end up winning the match, right? And I go back to my table and like I'm just selling merch and like this little girl runs up and she hugs me and she's just in tears. And I was like, yo, and the thing is, and those who know, right? I'm a dad. Like I have a daughter, right? And so like I go into dad mode.
Stress, yeah.
And I'm like, hey, are you okay? Where's your parents? Like, asking the questions, right? What's going on? Talk to me. And then her dad walks up and was like, I've never seen her hug a stranger before. And she goes, I wanted to help you, but he was so much bigger than me. And I was like, oh my God. That's the kind of connection I need. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm slowly learning how to get that. Cause like taking time and like looking into the crowd and try to like look for the person that's the most concerned and then grab them. That's what I've been slowly getting I feel like a little better at doing. Because now like I'm not always heel or face. I'm kind of like same thing you are, like you're whatever you need to be, right? It's just intent that I think makes my character heel or face, because I still do the same stuff. It's just one is having a good time beating the crap out of someone, and the other one's a little meaner about it. That's really it. That's really the only difference. But yeah, I've had a kid at Voltage once who was like that. Like, he almost crawled in the ring while who was it? It was Kalen Miller and Bo beating the crap out of me. And there was one point where I had rolled over and I hear this tiny voice screaming, "Get up." And I'm like, all I got to do is find this kid. And I turn around and see him like arm at the bottom, under the bottom rope, like reaching into the ring. And I reached my arm out to go get him. And then I think that's when the ref saw him, was like, "Kid, you have to walk away from the ring." And then later on, the kid came and checked on me. Same deal. It's like, oh man, like these kids connect. And if you can connect, I was told early on, if you can connect with kids, you can connect with anybody.
Yeah.
Because they're the hardest ones to make believe.
Mm-hmm. There's like actually at Voltage, there's a little girl that's there all the time. She's wearing my t-shirt like all the time. And like I find her in the crowd every single time. And my one match I had, I was working with Beastman, right? And like I was getting choked on the rope, and I was like, "Yo, tag me in," right? And she's like, "He's so much bigger." I was like, "Tell your dad to tag in."
Get and your father now.
Get your dad powers unite. Like, it's just it's the dumb things that like I think of like on the fly that I was like, I just can't wait to like say this to somebody and then just like watch their reaction. Like, I was at SWA, right? And there was a dad in the crowd and he was like, "I hate this guy. Can we get him out of the ring?" And I'm the face. So I look at King Kalua and I get out of the ring and I sit next to him and I just stare. Like we make like the most awkward eye to eye connection, and I just stare at him. And I was like, and I made it like this. We're talking like
you're in his face.
Yep. And I was like, "Are you having a good time?" He's like, "I was having a good time." I was like, "Here." And I took his popcorn and I took his drink and I sat next to me and I started eating his popcorn. Match hasn't started yet. We're still there. And he's like, "I can't." He's like, "Give me my stuff back." I was like, "All right, well, we're going to have a good time." He's like, "Not with you here." I was like, "All right, bet." So I gave him it back to him. I get back in the ring. We have the match. Midway through the match, I hear, "Okay, this guy got me. I like him."
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's my favorite. I love connecting. I love that connection where you just see people like either flip or they just instantly join in with you. And I'm just like, "All right, we good. I like this."
Yeah, I've noticed the stupid who thing I do is like the thing that grabs everyone. Like I did it in Hollywood, Maryland once, and I was like, "Oh shit, like 700 people are doing this." Like, this is my thing now, I guess. Time to get this stupid thing over. And then once I got it over, I'm like, this is my connection with the crowd. And it helps it fills my dead air. It does so much. Like, and once I look into the crowd and see the people that are doing it, because you can see hands in the air. And it's like, all right, I know everybody who I can reach for, look for, just because of a stupid hand signal.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, so for our listeners and our viewers, can you let them know where they can find you?
Oh, yes. They can find me on all social media platforms under Violent Breed JBA. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, Twitter. I don't know if I said Twitter already. I probably did. Facebook, YouTube. I even started a Hive when I thought Twitter was getting closed down. So that's there. But that's all the stuff. I got a Pro Wrestling Tees store. Got a Big Cartel. Same handle. Should be able to find it. You can catch me in Dundalk this Saturday. Voltage tomorrow. This will probably be... I probably would have wrestled by the time this comes out. Yeah. Big weekend of wrestling.
There you have it. He told you where you can find him. He told you all his handles. He even gave you 2 of his stores that he's been featured at with Big Cartel as well as Pro Wrestling Tees. So you know what that means. Like every great part of wrestling match, we got to take it home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Winter Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And, like every good Sherpa, it's never about me. It's about somebody who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient. You can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You see him right there. The Violent fucking Breed. JB Anderson himself. You guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately following us on all of our social media platforms. You're even subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're following us on Spotify. You're leaving us 5-star Frosh Flash reviews on Apple Podcasts. You're even listening to us on Amazon Music right now. You're doing all that stuff. You're telling your friends about us. You're even telling your family members. You're telling your enemies and those who, are just hating us in the comment section. Doing all that stuff, buying all of our merch on ProWrestlingTees.com or on ForYourWear.com/the 3 Count Podcast. Doing all that stuff. Or, you're just kind of waiting for this episode to end, waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3 Count _pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3 Count Pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give us a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3 Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count Podcast also has merchandise. At ProWrestlingTees.com/the 3 Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So, show us some support, please.